Islamic State strains the budget. Congress and the president are under pressure to bolster Pentagon coffers to fund expanding efforts in the Middle East. And you heard by our commander-in-chief, if you listen to his UN speech, which we broke down, we may be there for another 10 years or more. Unending war, one after another, and then you pick up the news, and what do you see over there in Detroit? Federal judge rules Detroit residents have no fundamental right to water. You got it? We have all this money to fight and kill other people, but can't pay your water bill. The hell with you. And by the way, as I look at it, again, only speaking for myself, anyone that supports war, these kinds of war, is supporting murder. And I'm not a pacifist. I'm a close combat practitioner. Had my own school for many years. I believe in self-defense, but I don't believe in murdering innocent people. And here you have it. They're calling for more of our money that Eisenhower warned us against, the military-industrial complex, from stealing it as the nation's infrastructure rots. And this judge could give a flying anything about people that are too poor to pay for their water. Hey, Obama, where's your humanitarian mission? Motown is no town, but we got to save them Yazidis on the mountain.
But, hey, Gerald, I mean, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, they're all doing really well. Their stocks are through the roof. I mean, who cares about people in Detroit? They've got no free water. The military-industrial complex is really making good out of this new war on ISIS, isn't it?
It's doing great. And that's why people say, you know, Mr. Celente, you point out the problems, but you don't give the solutions. Not true. You look at the Trends Journal, it's full of solutions. And the big solution is Occupy Peace. And I want to make this clear. This isn't going to be one of these rallies where everybody comes, yells, and screams and goes away. What do I do next? We're going to have takeaways. We're going to have action plans. And we have ours, but we want to hear yours as well. Again, OccupyPeace.us. We're launching a major movement. It's going to be officially launched from Colonial Kingston. By the way, right across the street from me is the Kingston Courthouse. John Jay was a juror here. 4 Supreme Court justices. The Constitution of New York State, the first capital of New York State before the British burnt the joint down, was written here. The important part of this, Paul, 90% of the United States Constitution comes from the New York State Constitution, written here by our founding fathers. I want a revolution, the Second American Revolution, one of peace, one of prosperity, one of morality, and one of spirituality. And I'm not talking about that New Age stuff or any religion. I'm talking about the spirit of the soul, the spirit of human dignity, the spirit of courage in a country that's turned coward, because only cowards would listen to the clowns that are leading them to disaster. What self-respecting human being would hail to the chief or bow to the queen?
David in Florida, you're on the air with Gerald Celente. Go ahead, David.
Hey, fellas, I really appreciate you being in America, Paul, and David, I certainly appreciate you as well. I wanted to say, Mr. Celente, I am a huge fan of what you do, and I'm an avid reader. I wanted to ask you, if you could, down the road, perhaps you could identify a little more clearly what the IBS actually stands for and what their power control really means in terms of the New World Order. And that's kind of really what I wanted to say. I didn't want to derail the conversation much, but you guys are doing a great job. Thank you very much. I enjoy it entirely.
Gerald, just a minute on that one before the break. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very clear. You were talking about the military-industrial complex. It's a multinational takeover. How much more proof do you need? How many more Walmarts do you need to be built? How many more Home Depots that put all the people that used to have hardware stores out of business do you need? How many more Staples that took the lives out of people that own stationery stores? It's Slavelandia worldwide. It's a multinational takeover. You got the neocon madmen and women, a handful, as Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who, by the way, there is no one I respect more for geopolitical insights and economic knowledge than he. And he just did a piece breaking it down. A handful of madmen, neocons, and women, and he went back to the Dulles brothers under Eisenhower in the other years that have destroyed this nation. It's a multinational takeover. Return the nations to the people. It's the populist movement that the multinationals fear the most.
And we'll pick up on that populist movement after the break with Gerald Celente, trendsresearch.com. Final segment of the Alex Jones Show live coming up. We're done for the calls now, but we're going to get into the CFR, the populist uprising, and their attempts to co-opt that on the Alex Jones Show live, InfoWarsStore.com. Keep it right there for the final segment. Stay tuned.
Are you happy doing your laundry with perfume detergents that irritate your skin? Are you happy washing your hands with stinking fragrances that gives your skin rashes? Are you happy paying new, higher prices for smaller boxes? Find your happiness today with our 1 to 4 year supply of pure soaps or our 1 to 2 month sampler with bar soap, shampoo, laundry, and dish soap at 5starsoap.com. You deserve the best. Happiness is 5starsoap.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Nanoparticle parasites, termed viruses, will only infect the iron-poisoned, copper-depleted population. Parasites require an iron supply in the host to thrive and replicate. Just as chemical poisons, parasites are propagated via the food and water supply and vaccines. Those born after 1945 have the vaccine parasites. The vaccine parasites have a virulence level that will trigger mass activation now due to iron accumulating at an unprecedented rate. This is why disease, symptoms, and conditions are exploding in prevalence. Disease is caused by the same underlying condition, iron poisoning and low copper status. Measles, Ebola, enteroviruses are nanoparticle parasites. So when the officials say to prepare for pandemics, it is because they know of attempts to release virulent parasites into the population. And they know the vaccine parasites are about to activate on a mass scale. This is the plan for expedient extermination of the population. For further information, go to unveilingthem.com. That's UNVEILING them.com. unveilingthem.com.
If you have candida overgrowth, just taking antifungal agents or starving yourself of sweets does not address the cause. Candida overgrowth is the result of a toxic, damaged, acidic, low oxygen, and inflamed tissue environment. The goal should be to remove the toxins, heal damaged tissues, restore healthy pH, eliminate inflammation, and feed beneficial bacteria. Previous usage of antibiotics or steroids or exposure to mercury or other toxins can damage many cells in the GI tract and body that make you prone to candida overgrowth. Removing toxins and healing tissues should be the goal. One World Whey is a whey protein food that supports detoxification, repair of tissues, and elimination of inflammation, healthy pH, and growth of beneficial bacteria. One World Whey is duly reformulated to be higher in protein and lower in carbohydrate. We believe One World Whey is an excellent food to support your efforts to create a healthy internal body environment. Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
He's going the distance. He's going for speed. She's all alone in a time of need. Because he's racing and pacing and plotting the course. He's fighting and biting and riding on his horse.
Final segment of the Alex Jones Show with Gerald Celente. Gerald, I just wanted to get your take on this because I know you've covered the secessionist movement in many issues of the Trends Journal. A couple of days ago, I wrote an article about how the CFR, in their Foreign Affairs magazine, basically admitted that this populist uprising was sweeping America, was sweeping Europe. Of course, we saw a narrow defeat for Scottish independence recently, but we see a similar wave of uprisings in places like Catalonia, Finland, the UK, Denmark, of course, with the rejection of the European Union. They said in their own words they need to, quote, co-opt this populist uprising and kind of dismiss it away, you know, squirrel it down a rabbit hole to diffuse its impact, diffuse its power. So how do you see them stopping this juggernaut of populism, or is it simply too runaway, too powerful to stop?
Well, the way they'll try to stop it is they'll beat up anybody and any groups that want to have it. So you see it with any kind of street protests. And by the way, what's going on in Hong Kong, certainly not a populist movement, but in many ways it is, in that they want to break away from the communist rule of China, who has put a law into place that the Communist Party vets their candidates who they can vote for. And it's the young people that are uprising because they have no jobs. And the jobs that they do have, that are available, they're giving it to cheaper Chinese labor that they're bringing in. And then we have, of course, coming up in Catalonia. And you have Rajoy, the Prime Minister of Spain, trying to stop that from coming even to a vote, saying it's illegal. And as you mentioned, the other populist movements going on in Germany with their new party, in Sweden. And it's very important also, Paul, to listen to the language. If it's an if it's a populist movement, it's very funny, in Germany, where they want to bail out of the euro and they want to bring nationalism back to the nation. How dare they? They call it a right-wing movement. What's happening in Sweden, however, they're calling it a left-wing movement, even though they're also against their big anti-immigration movement. Because what's happened, again, going back to our globalnomic methodology of tracking trends, all things are connected. Where are the immigrants coming from? You're over there in Europe. You know the deal. They're coming over by boats that are sinking, that desperate people fleeing, whether it's Palestine, whether it's fleeing Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, Mali, the other country that, thanks to the overthrow of Gaddafi, has been overrun by the so-called Islamic militants. And by the way, this has nothing to do with Islam. It's a bunch of desperate, crazy people that are doing anything they can in places that have been corrupt and robbed and destroyed. But anyway, so you see the massive immigration flows coming into Europe. There's no stopping them. You see them coming into the United States. There's no stopping them. Oh, by the way, one of the plans of Occupy Peace in bringing home the troops, seal the borders. We got a job for the military. So what I'm saying is these populist movements are going to continue to gain in strength. As a matter of fact, I believe it was yesterday that Ron Paul was again brought up the secessionist movements. It's the future. And the people can have the future if they choose to take it in their own hands.
Okay, Gerald Celente, that brings us nicely to the end of the show. Trendsresearch.com and OccupyPeace.us is the other website, correct?
That's correct.
Gerald Celente, thanks for joining us today on The Alex Jones Show.
Great being on with you. Thanks so much for having me.
That's going to do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Be sure to tune in for InfoWars Nightly News. Support us by buying the products, InfoWarsStore.com. I'm Paul Joseph Watson. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back in the hot seat for The Alex Jones Show. Stay tuned to the website for the latest news, InfoWars.com.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.